My God, what the heck happened out here? Jeez. Blood trail leads right up to my door. You would think I had something to do with it. All these bullet holes everywhere and stuff. Must have been the last guy who lived here. Rob's Arcade, Rob's Arcade, where the games get saved and those games get played so they can be saved on another day. It's Rob's Arcade. Rob's Arcade, where the games get played. All those games get played here in Rob's Arcade. Alright, let's see this turn. This down here a little bit. There we go. Oh man, welcome back to Rob's Arcade. I'm your host, Mr. Rob, Mr. Robert, Mr. Rob French, however you want to slice it. And I know I've kind of hit you with a couple of videos here last few days, but interestingly enough, I don't know, just had like another little thing kind of pop up here on my day off today. Went ahead and took a extra day, as everybody else pretty much got a 3-day weekend this week with Labor Day and all, and decided to just kind of hang out, watch a little TV, have a little breakfast, and it's like, let me maybe play some video games here and that kind of a thing. But I wanted to have a little something to eat and just watch a little something on TV. And I was thinking like, oh man, like some um, maybe like some Impractical Jokers, a couple episodes of that would be great. Just a little something to watch while I was watching TV. And I don't do cable. It's 2025. I don't know who does cable anymore. But as I sat down to watch TV and pulled up the HBO app and went to my continued viewing, I came across interesting discovery, and it just kind of led to some internal thoughts and um, reflections, I guess, if you will. I just kind of wanted to share some of it with you here today on Rob's Arcade. Not really like an update, not really a Monday motivation, not really a video game video. More, if you will, just I guess like a, um, like a testimonial kind of a thing, if you will. I just kind of wanted to share with you and, do and take with it what you will. Um, but I switch to this seat over here. There we go. Yeah, just something for you to take with you as I sit here on this couch and watch a little TV here in the virtual world. Um, but as I was watching, like I said, some TV today, I noticed that in Practical Jokers wasn't in my continued watching anymore, which I thought was kind of interesting. It's disappeared before, um, but um, I think only because it was being like reformatted and kind of like updated. And in fact, let me go ahead and pull this up now and see if it's still not in my library here. And then sometimes they will do some updates. Yeah, so right now I'm looking at it again, and it's one season of Impractical Jokers, their newest, I guess, Shark Week special, and then Australia and Practical Jokers, which I thought was interesting because for a while, um, the four Impractical Jokers. You had Joe, Q, Sal, Murr. That was the whole bit. Four high school friends challenging each other to pranks and practical jokes, and the loser suffers the ultimate punishment. And I don't know if you've noticed, but up until a few years ago, it was four. Now it's only three, and Joe is no longer in the show. He's no longer on the series. And if you're not really familiar with why, I'm glad you tuned into my channels because I'm not really sure exactly why either, but I'm more than happy to give you what my understanding is, and that there was some infidelity with Joe, and um, just some general kind of neglect with his wife and his child. And he decided to kind of hang it up and focus more on his family. And I think also there was, it's kind of like a mutual, like, I'll step away, and um, the show kind of asks him for, I think, legal reasons to kind of step away as well. Um, so he did, and for the last few years, it's just been the three. But what's always been interesting is you can always find old episodes on, I'm guessing, True TV. I'm sure they have like a streaming service as well, or some kind of a site you can find it on. I'm sure it still runs on cable somewhere in syndication, but HBO has had not only the majority of the show, um, but the movie, as well as Inside and Practical Jokers, which is one of my favorite pieces, where it kind of breaks down little tidbits of each episode for the fans who really enjoy watching those episodes over and over again, like I do. Now, um, I thought it was crazy. Like I said, I woke up this morning and went to go watch it, and it wasn't in my queue anymore. And I'm like, this is so interesting. So I went and I searched it up, thinking like sometimes things kind of drop or get bumped. I've had that happen before. I think the last time it disappeared, it literally just, I hadn't watched it in so long, it just got bumped out of my queue. But I thought was interesting. I was like, no, it don't get bumped. I feel like I just watched it recently. And then I went to go look for it, and it's gone, which leads me to think that this is some further legal ramifications to what's going on with Joe Gatto and his involvement with the show, which is crazy because to me, like, the fact that he's not even in the show anymore, it blows my mind because he was always like I know he's not like, there's no leader to the group, but I just feel like if there were to be a leader, and if you went and you asked most fans, who do you think the front man for Practical Jokers is? I think most of them would say Joe Gatto's the front man for in Practical Jokers. Like, he's the one who kind of like, he's the glue. Um, he has no fear. He completes most of his challenges, and he's like, I think probably on the board as the least punished on the show. So he just seems like the all in all, like, number one front man. Just the fact that he's no longer on the show, it blows my mind. Almost the fact that they're like, yeah, we don't really need you. I feel like halfway through one season they started replacing him with like guest stars, and it was pretty mind boggling. Just the simple fact that, like, it's just you're used to the four, and then all of a sudden it's the three. And now I feel like they're erasing him from existence. And I don't know, I shouldn't say they, because I don't really know who is behind what is transpiring, or really if it's maybe just something as simple as maybe renegotiating some contracts. I'm not really sure. But I have a feeling it has something to do with Joe Gatto and the whole infidelity, um, leaving slash being forced off the show. Uh, and this is just more proof that it's just like kind of going off of what I was talking about these last couple of days, regarding, like, I guess even just um, even last few weeks and months with like work and just never really knowing. And one day you're a team director, next day you're not, and one day you have a dog, and then the next day he's back with his family. And you know, regardless of how I feel about that whole situation, it's just really interesting because you just never know. Like one day something's, you know, life as you know it, working on skits for Impractical Jokers, and then the next thing you know, you're no longer doing that. You're no longer on in Practical Jokers, you know, and you could think like, I'm the guy. I'm the one sitting behind the desk. You know, I got the mainframe. I'm controlling everything. I've got all the screens here. I'm the guy in the chair. But even, you know, Joe Gatto found himself no longer on this show. And then some could say, well, you know, I'll always have reruns and they'll always, well, it's almost like now, like, well, no, they're getting rid of that as well. And it could be, again, some part of negotiations. It could pop back up on HBO at some point. But I have a feeling it's not going to. And you know, I might talk about this later on some more if it does come back. But it just seems like anything that has to do with Joe Gatto, they got rid of. They canceled it basically. It's the movie. The movie's no longer on there, which had all four. And Practical Jokers is completely gone. And that show only ran the duration, I feel like, of Joe Gatto's tenure on that show. And then the latest season of Impractical Jokers with the three is the only one available on that show, or excuse me, that app. So it went from, oh, and there's also a Shark Week, like I said, but that's also only the three. Um, so it's like anything that had anything to do with Joe Gatto just got completely erased. And like I said, just goes to more proof of the pudding that you just never know, you know. Um, and I think the most important piece and lesson in that is just to appreciate, you know, what you have while you have it. You know, like even myself, as simple as it sounds, like, oh man, you know, I was really looking forward to watching Practical Joker. It's kind of like a guilty pleasure, like, oh, I'm going to have some lunch. I've only got about 30 minutes or maybe an hour to watch a little TV. Let me watch a couple episodes of this, you know. I got like about 30, 40 minutes. Let me watch a couple episodes of Practical Jokers. Um, so just a simple fact that like I was kind of taking advantage of having it there and now it's gone. Joe taking advantage of being on the show. The guys, it's like you're like just used to having them there. And it's like just you never know. Um, so enjoy, you know, the things you have while you have them, because nothing really lasts forever. You know, I could be upset about, um, you know, Tucker and this dog and not having him, or I can reflect and go back and go, well, you know, the short week that we were together, um, you know, those were some really fun and really good times, and I can be appreciative of that. You know, it's kind of like what is the saying? Better to have loved and lost than have never have loved at all. Um, so it is better to be a part of something and have it there and enjoy it while you have it, even if it's gone one day, because at least you have that peace. But like I said, it's just insane that, like I said, just how watching, I was just like, man, this is, you know, like trying to get up this morning and clear my head and have some breakfast and get away from some of the thoughts that had been popping into my head and kind of like floating around in there. And as soon as I sit down with my coffee and my breakfast, I'm kind of reminded again, like, damn, you know, yeah, nothing quite lasts forever. Nothing's certain. Um, so yeah, like I said, just enjoy it while you have it. Appreciate what you have while you have it. You know, I can't stress that, um, you know, enough. That's going back to when I first went through, you know, my current separation from my wife. One of the whole takeaways of that was, you know, I had a really good life. I was married, was living in Florida, going to Disney whenever I wanted to. I had a great dog. Um, I was living up, man. I was living it up, and um, I took advantage, and just like a blink of an eye, it all changed, and I found myself back home, kind of not really able to say like starting from scratch or starting completely over, but um, once again, kind of finding myself like, damn, like nothing quite lasts forever. Even if you think like, oh, this is it, this is endgame, we're married, like nothing's going to happen, nothing can change that. Um, but yeah, you just, you never really are quite sure. So it kind of goes back to really like the whole purpose of some of these testimonials and these walks and talks and Monday motivations and all these things that I do. Um, and like I said, just kind of processing, like it's been tough. Like I said, finding this dog, caring for it, knowing he's not in the best home, but also knowing I wanted to get him back home. Um, Struggling with what all that looks like. Um, but then also just kind of dealing with the fact that he, um, isn't really around anymore. It's not so much to the fact that like, oh, he's not around. There's some other layers to that. Like I said, I feel kind of bad for I think the situation that he might be in. Um, but then I'm kind of juggling with all this and trying to put it aside and put it on the back burner. And even just again something as simple as watching TV, it's like, oh wow, yeah, okay, here we go, another reminder, and it's a simple reminder. It's nothing major, like I said. It's oh, just a matter of finding something else, like really on TV to watch. But yeah, it was just I don't know, it's just very very interesting to me. And again, like I said, the one guy who you thought would always be around, he would always be part of the show. The one, the only, the Mr. Joe Gatto, Mr. Captain Fat Belly himself. And it's like not only is he not on the show anymore, but like I said, they've almost like I said found a way to remove him from the complete like I said it's like the whole HBO app. It's like if you were, let's just throw this out there, like some 12, 13-year-old kid, and you've never seen Impractical Jokers before, you've never even heard of it, it's like, what? Like, no, just never. And one day you're on HBO and you're just searching for jokes and you're like, Impractical Jokers, what's this? And you watch like the new Shark Week thing and some of the Australian stuff and then the season 11 and you're like, whoa, what is this? This is kind of cool. Um, and is it season 11, season 10 or 11? I think it's season 11. Um, and so you're like, oh, this is cool. What is this? And then you're like, oh, well, let me go see. This is season 11. Let me go see what the other 10 seasons is all about. And you start looking this stuff up on YouTube or whatever. And you're like, who is this guy? Like, who is this fourth guy? And it's just one of those things, like, if you're just now getting, excuse me, just now getting introduced to the show, you wouldn't even know who this guy is. Like, that wouldn't even be, it's like a whole different world and a whole like what? Like there was a fifth Beatle? So it's just insane to think that like, those of us who know the format, those of us who know the cast, who know the show kind of inside and out, it's kind of like, oh snap, where did he go? But for everyone else, it's just like he just never, you know, anybody anybody after September 2nd who decided to go hop on HBO and discover Impractical Jokers for the first time is never going to know who Joe Gatto even was, which is just it's just wild. It's it reminds me of something else, and I'm going to leave you with this. So please, do with what you will, use it how you will. Think about it and apply it to your life. Kind of how you will in situations that might pop up later on, whether it's like relationships or work or school or anything like that. Um, but there's another show um, that um, isn't even on anymore. I used to watch it growing up, and there was a lot of jabs and picking at and making fun of on that show. That was kind of like their humor. And if you were um, curious to see what that kind of looks like, where it's just constant like um, cast cutting into each other, then look up a little show called Married with Children. Um, on that show, the father, Ted Bundy, played by Ed O'Neill, didn't had like zero tolerance for everything. Like that was like the character's, I think, overall pitch. If you wanted to kind of sum them up, like zero tolerance for anything. Just all he had time for was like just relaxing, watching his TV, and any nonsense he had zero room for. Uh, I think one of the biggest moments in the show was whenever his neighbor would come over. Um, kind of a uh, lesbian-ish character who was married, had a husband, but would always come over and just kind of seemed very, like that short hair, um, wearing like men's clothes, though it all bossy. I think that was kind of like the thing, like she's like the man of the house, kind of a joke. But it turned into kind of more like lesbian humor, and that was kind of like the big thing back and forth in the '80s. Is um, she would come over and be like, you're lazy and stupid, and he would be like, yeah, well, you look like a boy, and that was like the whole thing. So, um, I was watching a interview, and the son of the show was talking about his experience working on that series, and they kind of asked like, what was it like? The interviewer was like, what was it like working on the show, and how was it? And he was like, oh man, it was great. Like, it was a lot of fun, a lot of cracking up, a lot of jokes. And they kind of wanted to know about tension. Like, was there ever any tension on the set? Was there ever any, like, um, fights or anything like that? And he was like, no, not really. Like, everybody kind of got along. It was just kind of like that was the humor. Like, we all kind of picked on each other, and, like, nothing ever really happened. He said the only two people who ever really had any tension was the woman who played the neighbor, Marcy, and, Ed O'Neill. And it was, there was always like joking and jabbing and that kind of a thing. And I believe the actress in real life is a lesbian. And so that's probably where a lot of the material came from, um, which led to her, um, probably the reason why she didn't invite him to her wedding. Just the constant jokes and not taking it seriously kind of a thing. Um, but outside of that, like it never really got out of hand, he said, except for one day um, they just blew up at each other. And this was at a time when she was actually um, directing episodes. And the way the son of the show, the actor who played Bud, explained this was she started directing episodes on this show and kind of got a little full of herself, like, which isn't the attitude you want to have when you're on a sitcom or like an ongoing show as a director. Like, you're not coming in like this is my movie, this is my project, this is my baby. It's more of like, all right, I'm just here to direct the next episode of this thing that we're all working on together. Like this is you guys make each episode every week, um, way more than I do. If you ever look at the directors of an episode, it usually changes where the cast, cameramen, crew, and all of that usually stay the same. The directors and writers usually kind of pop in and out. So really the job, of a director on a show like that isn't to run it. It's basically just to, you know, shoot it, frame it, let's get it done, get it on the air. So when she started directing, it was more of like her way, the highway kind of a thing, and her show, not your show, and da 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 da. And one day I think it just got too far, and it was something along the lines of, you know, my set, my way kind of a thing, and if you don't like it, you can get off my set, or this is my show, this is my thing. And the only reason she had a shot to even direct was because of Ed O'Neill. So the fact that she's got this attitude and like this is my thing and da 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 da, he's kind of like, you're only directing because basically like I'm allowing you to direct, you know. Um, if it wasn't for me giving you a chance to even do this, you would be doing this. So don't, hold your ego over my head and try to boss me around. This isn't your show. This is my show. And he put it quite frankly, and I think it got kind of like um, finally put out in the open in front of the whole cast, the whole crew, and everybody as they got this heated argument finally hit a peak and a plateau, if you will, plateaued out. And Ed O'Neill quickly ended the argument by saying, to the actress who played Marcy and the director of that episode or what have you, let me remind you, ma'am, that you don't have a button. You don't have an eject Ed button, but I have an eject you button. I have an eject button. You do not. And it just kind of put an end to that argument right then and there. Just kind of like wrapped it all up, but it was like one of the biggest blowouts they ever had um, on the set. And I loved that. And I heard it over the weekend. I think I heard it like, I don't know, like Friday or Saturday or something like that. Maybe Sunday while flipping through TikTok and finding some different um, celebrity interviews. And like I said, it was just the actor who played Bud on Married with Children having this piece. And the whole story, like it was, not as long as I went through it, but just that end piece. I have an eject button and you do not. Just really, I don't know. It sticks with me. It really pops out there. Um, so just kind of wanted to end, I guess, this little bit, and again, this little final layer of icing to this whole, like I said, here today, gone tomorrow, never know. Like last week, I'm sure the owners of that dog were like, oh my gosh, he was here one day, now he's gone. And one day in Practical Jokers is a cast of 4, and next day it's 3, and one day it's on HBO, and the next day it's wiped clean, almost like the Men in Black wave their little wand in front of it. And I wonder too, I wonder if it was something that had to do with like True TV, if it was something that was like an HBO Max kind of a contract thing, um, if it was like a legal action that like his wife took, or um, maybe something Joe did, maybe who knows, maybe his wife and kid are getting money, or maybe somebody's getting money from those residuals and he's not, and he was finally like, let's go ahead and put a cease and desist to all that. I don't know. It's very interesting to me. Like, I wonder exactly what transpired that caused the overall decision to go ahead and pull that off. Anyway, let me go ahead and wrap this up, you guys. Hope you enjoyed um, this episode. It's been a lot of fun. Um, and don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all that jazz. And I will talk to you later. Oh yeah, take care of yourself, take care of each other. Toss me the quarter, Ross.